Time for some more Roald Dahl. This time, again, from Roald Dahl's Dirty Beasts, and this story is called The Toad and the Snail. And I've got me, Edward, to help me. The Toad and the Snail. I really am most awfully fond of playing in the lily pond. I take off shoes and socks and coat and paddle with my little boat. Now, yesterday, quite suddenly, a giant toad came up to me. This toad was easily as big as any fair-sized fattish pig. He smiled and said,
"How do you do?" "Hello, good morning. How are you?"
His face somehow reminded me of Mummy's sister Emily.
"How you doing?"
The toad said,
"Don't you think I'm fine? Admire these lovely legs of mine. And I am sure you've never seen a toad so glorious and green."
I said, "So far as I can see, you look just like Aunt Emily." He said,
"But Aunt Emily can't jump 1/2 as big as me. Hop on my back, young friend,"
he cried.
"I'll take you for a marvellous ride."
As I got on, I thought, oh blimey, oh dearie me, how wet and slimy.
"Sit further back,"
he said.
"That's right. I'm going to jump, so hold on tight."
He jumped. Oh, how he jumped. By gum, I thought my final hour had come. My wretched eardrums popped and fizzed. My eyeballs watered. Up we whizzed. I clung on tight. I shouted, "How much further are we going now?" Toad said, his face all wreathed in smiles,
"With every jump, it's 50 miles.
Quite literally, we jumped all over from Scotland to the cliffs of Dover. Above the cliffs, we stopped for tea, and Toad said, gazing at the sea,
"What do you say we take a chance and jump from England into France?"
I said, "Oh dear, do you think we ought to? I'd hate to finish in the water." But toads, you'll find, don't give a wink about what we little children think. He didn't bother to reply. "You jumped. You should have seen us fly. We simply soared across the sea, the marvellous Mr. Toad and me." There they are. Jumping from England into France, if you ever. Then down we came, and down, and landed in a funny town. We landed hard. In fact, we bounced.
"We're there. It's France,"
the Toad announced. He said,
"You must admit it's grand to jump into a foreign land. No boats, no bicycles, no trains, no cars, no noisy aeroplanes."
Just then we heard a fearful shout.
"Oh, heavens above!"
the Toad cried out. I saw a frightening sight. On every side, from left to right, people were running down the road, running at me and Mr. Toad, and every person, man and wife, was brandishing a carving knife. It didn't take me very long to figure there was something wrong, and yet how could a small boy know, for nobody had told me so, that Frenchmen aren't like you or me. They do things very differently. They won't say yards, they call them meters, and they're the most peculiar eaters. A Frenchman frequently regales himself with 6 snails.
Oh.
Ooh, I know. Gross, they look like bogies. The greedy one will gulp a score of these foul brutes and ask for more. In many of the best hotels, the people also eat the shells. Imagine that. My stomach turns. One might as well eat slugs or worms. Do you want that for dinner?
No.
But wait, read on a little bit. You haven't heard the half of it. These French go even more agog if someone offers them a frog. You better fetch a basin quick in case you're going to be sick. The bits of frog they like to eat are thighs and calves and toes and feet. The French will gobble loads and loads of legs. They chop off frogs and toads. They think it's absolutely ripping to guzzle frogs' legs fried in dripping. That's why the whole town and their wives were rushing us with carving knives. They screamed in French, "Well, I'll be blood! What legs there are upon that toad! Chop them, skin them, cook them, fry them. All of us are going to try them." "Toad," I cried, "I'm not a funk, but ought we not to do a bunk? These rascals haven't come to greet you. All they want to do is eat you." Toad turned his head and looked at me and said, as cool can be,
Calm down and listen carefully, please.
Have you turned French? I think the toad's turned French momentarily. It's an English toad right now.
Okay.
Calm down.
Calm down and listen carefully, please. I often come to France for teas. To tease. These crazy French who long to eat my lovely tender froggy meat. I'm a magic toad,
He cried.
and I don't ever have to hide. Stay where you are, don't move, he said.
And pressed a button on his head. At once there came a blinding flash, and then the most almighty crash, and sparks were bursting all around, and smoke was rising from the ground. When all the smoke had cleared away, the Frenchmen with their knives cried, "Hey! Where is the toad? Where has he gone? You see, I'm French now. You see, I was now sitting on a wonderfully enormous snail." His shell was smooth and brown and pale, and I was so high off the ground that I could see for miles around. The snail said, "Hello, greetings, hail. I was a toad. I'm now a snail." I had to change the way I looked to save myself from being cooked.
Yeah, but now he's a snail.
Oh no, I don't think this is a solution. "Oh, snail," I said, "I'm not so sure. I think they're starting up once more." The French were shouting, "What a snail! What a monster! What a whale! This makes the toad look titchy small. There's lovely snail meat for us all. We'll bake the creature in his shell and ring aloud the dinner bell. Get garlic, parsley, butter, spices. We'll cut him into 50 slices. Come, sharpen up your carving knives. This is the banquet of our lives." I murmured through my quivering lips, "Oh, snail, I think we've had our chips." The snail replied, "I disagree. Those greedy French, they'll not eat me." But on they came. They screamed, "Yahoo! Surround the brute and run him through." Good gracious, I could almost feel the pointed blades, the shining steel. But Snail was cool as cool could be. He turned his head and winked at me and murmured, "Au revoir, farewell," and pulled a lever on his shell. I looked around. The snail had gone. And now, who was I sitting on? Oh, what relief, what joy, because at last I'd found a friend. It was the gorgeous, glamorous, absurd, enchanting Roly-Poly bird. Have you got a voice ready? Okay. He turned and whispered in my ear,
"Well, fancy seeing you, my dear."
That's a good one. Then up he went in glorious flight. I clutched his neck and hung on tight. We fairly raced across the sky, the roly-poly bird and I, and landed safely just beyond the fringes of the lily pond. When I got home, I never told a solitary single soul what I had done or where I'd been or any of the things I'd seen. I did not even say I rode upon a giant jumping toad, because if I have, I knew that they would not believe me anyway. But you and I know well it's true. We know I jumped. We know I flew. We're sure it all took place, although not one of us will ever know. We'll never, never understand why children go to Wonderland.